Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Minnesota RØKKR co-stream. My name is Ashley, aka MiDNiTE, back again with IKON. What's good, IKON? I see you got the RØKKR shirt on today. I got the jersey. Hey, flexing
Let's
on them.
go.
Look. I got the jersey on the wall too. I'm a psychopath. Let's go. I'm so excited, man. It's Major 3, rocking the co-stream here. Unfortunately, as we saw in the last co-stream, we were not able to place top 3 in our group this stage, so we are actually starting in the lower bracket. It is never called the losers bracket. When we are in it, only when other teams are in it. You know the vibe. We winners here, baby. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we're in the lower bracket or the losers bracket, so that means we cannot lose. Otherwise, we are eliminated from this Major 3 tournament. All of the Stage 3 matches have led up to this moment and seeding for this tournament. And ultimately, like, what are the guys playing for this weekend, IKON? It's obviously some cash, but what's most important for teams to come away with this weekend?
Yeah, I think if you're thinking in terms of, okay, we're at the end of the Stage 3 major here, you've obviously got Stage 4 and Stage 5 to go. But if you look at the standings overall and just based off of which teams are playing well and maybe which teams might be struggling a bit, you look at where Minnesota is sitting right now. They're in 7th at 120. And of course, for champs at the end of the year, you have to be in the top 8. So if you finish 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th, you are not going to end up being invited to champs this year. So it's obviously super important that you stay in those top 8 squads. So if you look at where Minnesota's at, they're in 7th. Florida, as of late, Florida had a really impressive victory yesterday over the LA Thieves. They looked phenomenal. They finally got some production out of their SMGs. Neptune actually ended up clutching a round 11 ace to win the map 2 S&D. And he ended up in that map 1 Hardpoint. He ended up finishing on like an 8 streak or something, which also led to them winning that map 1 and map 2. So Neptune absolutely clutched up. And if you pair what he's doing along with what they're getting from Awakening and Skies, that's a squad that can be really dangerous if they figure it out. So they're in 8th place. They're 30 CDL points behind Minnesota. So there's still a decent gap there, but the team that you're really looking out for is LAG because LAG has 80 points. They're in 9th place, so they're 40 CDL points behind Minnesota. So as of right now, you feel pretty comfortable having a 40-point lead over where LAG is at, but moving forward, there's also room to improve because LA Thieves is right above Minnesota at 6th. They're only 20 points ahead of Minnesota. So if Minnesota goes on a run here, not to mention, if the RØKKR beats London today, their matchup tomorrow is going to be against LA Thieves. So a win today coupled with a win tomorrow against LA Thieves could easily move Minnesota into that 6th spot. And then right ahead of the 6th spot is Optic Chicago in 5th at 160. So 40 points ahead of Minnesota. And there's always a chance that the way that Optic's been playing, they also get knocked out of this tournament early. I mean, it's wild to think where teams are at and how the scene has been developing over the course of the last major or so. But yeah, just looking at the grand scheme of things, a win here coupled with a win tomorrow against LA Thieves could easily move Minnesota into that 6th spot. And after that, you could easily move up to 5th based on how that match goes between Optic and LAG.
Yeah, I mean, we say it all the time. I'm so sorry for just beating this point to death at this point, but it's so crazy how dang competitive this league really is. It's safe to say Toronto is currently, I think, the best or hottest team in the game. Obviously, FaZe still leading in standings. I can't even believe that on day 1 of Major 3, on a Thursday, we got to see yesterday FaZe versus Empire. Did not expect that, and FaZe 3-0'd Empire, just like I predicted on the podcast. We are tracking our predictions here. There's a point system. It's very fun. We're keeping track of it on Twitter, so make sure you follow our Twitter to see who's winning. Spoiler alert, it is not me. But it's a good time, man. It's a good time. But yeah, I mean, we saw Mutineers versus LA Thieves yesterday. Now they get dropped in the losers bracket. So when you're looking at this thing in the lower bracket just today, we're going to see obviously London Royal Ravens, who by all accounts, they are the worst standings team in the league. They're in last place. or a surge. No, London is. It's close, but
They're
yeah,
tied for last.
they're tied for last, worst team in the leagues points wise, but they've made so many roster changes this year. They're finally starting to find form, and we absolutely cannot take them lightly today. Especially, I mean, we'll get into the maps here in a second, but whew, it is not going to be an easy fight through this losers bracket. If we were to beat London today, we would play up against LA Thieves, which I do think they are beatable, but they are also very good. Like, all of these teams are so dang good, and looking at this bracket right now, it's crazy. Like you mentioned, Optic's going to be playing Gorillas today for elimination. And then if whoever wins that, let's just for argument's sake say it'll be Optic, because I think so. I think they might win. Hashtag green wall. Optic goes on to play Empire in the lower bracket. So no matter what, we will know by tomorrow. Like, they'll place what, top 8 in the major? That's crazy. Optic or Empire will place top 8 this major.
Yeah,
that is crazy. It's just crazy times right now. It's starting to get to be that time of year where the points so matter. I mean, the points always matter because it all adds up at the end. But yes, teams are starting to get real scrappy, and it's a fierce fight for points towards champs, like you mentioned. So today, though, let's focus on London. Like I said, they're looking a little better. Like, they are improving. Their hardpoint looks really good. I think their search still looks, I don't know what's going on there, but they're like, their respawn's good, and it could be a nerve-wracking series. I'd love to hear kind of what's your take on the series versus London. What do we watch out for?
Yeah, London, it's such a, it's, to me, it just reminds me, like, exactly, they're almost a microcosm of what's going on in the CDL. Because if you go back 4 weeks ago, they're a squad we're like, okay, we're going to see them in the first or second round of the major. That's great. That should be, a fairly easy win. Then they've just been, and this is also a major difference from what we saw last year. It seemed like last year during the MW season, there were so many squads that just kind of sat on their hands and just kind of hoped that their roster would figure it out and they'd come along. But this year, you see squads making changes left and right, and London has been one of those squads that has made multiple changes. It seems like almost every couple of weeks, they just say, you know what, this isn't working. We need to bring in somebody else. And I think that they've finally found a squad that they can build around. I think the main driving force behind that squad is what's going on at the flex and AR position between Paul X and Shawnee. I think that Shawnee has basically consistently throughout the entirety of the year been their best player, which is why they kept him. He was the only player that they kept from last year, and why they elected to build around him this year. He has been playing well. It's going to be a super important matchup with accuracy, that he can win rotations against Shawnee, and he can get some of those 1v1s when it comes to long lines of sights and control maps and hardpoint hills and stuff like that. Also, of course, search and destroy rounds. But Paul X has been the other driving force for them, where they brought in Paul X. He had a really good start to challengers this year. He was part of that Wester squad, which also featured Zaptius, who is another SMG that's on London. So those two have a chemistry from basically winning every Challengers Cup at the beginning of the year. They brought in both of those two. They've both been playing well. Paul X is probably like their second best player at this point in time. I do think that, again, the flex and the main AR is their main driving force. And then the SMGs are starting to give them enough production. They're not the duo that's absolutely leading them. Like when you look at it in Atlanta FaZe or a squad like that, obviously Simp and Abizi are the two that really set the tone for that squad. It's not quite the same here. So I think it's really important that Standy and Attach have a really good showing here. I think if they can win a lot of those gun battles in the middle of the map, and they can really set the tone of just being the aggressor in this match, I think that's really going to favor Minnesota. And especially in a lot of those respawns, it should give them what they need to end up winning those maps. But absolutely, over the last month or so, I think London is finally heading in the right position. I don't know if they have the time to get up to like 8th place or 7th or someplace in the ratings, just because right now they're so far behind. But just another story in the CDL here is they're just a squad that seemed like they were down and out for the first two and a half stages. Now all of a sudden they're looking better, and they're being competitive against a lot of teams that they're playing.
Yeah, and it's never too late. You could go on a run, you could get mad points and sneak your way into the top 8. It's not looking likely, but yeah, they're in desperation mode, and playing a team in desperation mode in the lower bracket is not a good feeling, if I'm honest. So let's hope, we're able to take this. Guys, remember, if we lose, we're out. If we win, we keep going. We've seen crazy losers runs. I mean, you saw Toronto. I think they were definitely farther along in the losers bracket in the last major that they won. I think they would be technically 2 rounds ahead of where we are now, but they made the run from round 3 losers, or 4, I can't remember which. No, it was 3. Round 3 losers, so 1 round ahead of us only, and they won the whole damn thing. So we know it's possible. We could beat London, beat Thieves, you'd have to beat everybody, but we've seen that it's possible to do it. Toronto did it. Why not us? Why not the real North? Check out a map sometime. Just kidding. But yeah, I'm really excited. Let's talk about the maps. I know we don't got a lot of time. They're running the intros here, so let's talk a little bit about the maps, the records. Did we win the vetoes, basically? Let's take a look. We got Hardpoint Garrison, Search and Destroy Raid, Control Garrison, Hardpoint on Moscow, and Search and Destroy Miami. So run through the records, or just your take maybe on the map set that we got versus London here.
This is, again, it seems like the last time that we saw Minnesota, it seemed like maybe they're experimenting with different maps that we're really not used to seeing them play, or it could be London's vetoes too. We don't quite have that veto information, but it starts on Hardpoint Garrison. Minnesota's 2-5, London's 2-7, so it's a map that both squads have played quite a bit, but they're not really all that good at. So Hardpoint Garrison, it seems like it's going to be a toss-up, but again, after making the roster move, that map 1 Hardpoint is a map and mode where Minnesota seems to be winning that map 1 a lot more often than they did before the roster move. So even though both teams aren't great at Hardpoint Garrison, it could be a map that they come out and start 1-0. Then it goes to S&D Raid, where very similarly, again, Minnesota's 2-1, London's 2-2. So both of those squads are, it's not like either of these squads are 5-1 on that map. It's not like either of these squads are 1-5. They're just so-so. But I think it's a map where you have longer range gun battles, and it's a map where Priesta and accuracy are going to have to do really well in order to get those kills, like from cutout to top apartment or from art to laundry. Like, those are really important lines of sight. And then it goes to Control Garrison. Minnesota's 3-2, London's 4-3. Very similar records again. Hardpoint Moscow is map 4. This is the only one that might be a little bit iffy because Minnesota's 1-4 and London's 5-5. And again, a lot of these records might come from a time when London really wasn't playing all that well. So just the fact that they even have a 500 record on a map that they've played 10 times, especially after the roster change, you might think this is one of their better maps. So it's probably a map that they picked. And then you do have to feel comfortable, even though records might say otherwise, if it does go to a map 5 S&D Miami. Minnesota's 4-4, London's 2-2. Both teams are 500, but the way that Minnesota has been playing S&D on Miami as of late, they've been winning it against a lot of really good squads. So if it goes to map 5, you do have to feel comfortable, but this could very easily be like a map 1, map 3, map 5 kind of route here, just based off of what this looks like. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm excited to see how the first map here, Hardpoint Garrison, goes.
Yeah, I think this hardpoint will really indicate a lot to us. I mean, this is not a very good map for us, although we did win it recently. Our hardpoint has been looking really good recently. A lot of our hardpoint stats are a tiny bit skewed from, the first 2 stages, basically, of CDL. We call worst hardpoint team in the league, right? So got to try to look at the lens of, lately, how have we been looking? I think really good. From what I can tell, London's search records, not awesome, but they are a fast improving team. Like, they've finally seemed to be able to find some momentum. We've kind of been wondering when it's going to happen. They've made multiple roster shifts, changes, and it sounds like they've finally got, with Paul Hex coming on and a couple other things they've tidied up. Like, London's they could be the real deal. They're not going to be easy to beat, even though they are ranked last in the league. Everyone in this league is so damn competitive. So what I would love to hear from the chat. Let's go. I see people in the chat. Tabani, what's good? What's good, yo? Dylan Pomeroy, aka Thunder Hips. What's good, Lace Games? Shout out to the chat. I'd love to know, chat, what's your guys' prediction? I'm predicting a RØKKR 3-1 W. I'm hoping for it at least. No jinx, knock on wood. I just hope we can keep our lives alive in the tournament. Icon, what are you thinking? What's your map count, series win? Who's taking this and how?
Yeah, I also said 3-1. I think that S&D on raid could be tough, but I think Minnesota will come out, and they've been winning map ones. I think that it'll work out that way again. Control on Garrison, both teams are okay at. And then Hardpoint on Moscow might be tough just based off of how things have gone as of late. But I'm super confident if it goes to S&D Miami that it would be a 3-2 RØKKR win. But I'm going to stick with 3-1. I think they'll clutch up and win that Hardpoint on Moscow.
I hope so, man. God, I'm so nervous, man. Every major, I'm just a ball of anxiety. I can't stand being in the lower bracket, especially right away. But hey, we've seen it been done before. If Toronto could do it, if you could just catch fire at the right time, get hot, I can't wait to see it. Let's hope the guys can pull a first dub. Looks like we got some RØKKR dubs in the chat. You'll love to see that. But guys, remember, at this co-stream, you will be able to view the match, and then IKON and I will be back in between the maps to kind of break it down. So let's kick it over to the CDL stream. I believe it looks like they're about to start. Everyone's getting fidgety in their chairs. It's me too, honestly. So let's freaking go RØKKR, baby. We'll catch you guys after the map 1 Garrison.
I feel like with them playing this map shows that they've been putting practice in, and even though they played it eight different times throughout the season so far, hopefully the 9th time is a charm, because these guys have been putting in the work. They've been increasing their skill just across the board in every single map, especially in those hard points. 4-game win streak, the guys are on point, and they're feeling really confident to go up against Minnesota on this map, even though Minnesota, they're sitting at 2-5, and the opposite side, you're 1-7. So either team on this map have not really seen that much success, but from what the Ravens have shown us recently, their hardpoint game has been on point, their teamwork has been on point, and they need to be able to answer it here on their very worst map.
Yeah, as we said, folks, this is an elimination game. You lose this series, nope, you don't have that elimination bracket to rely on. Why? Because you're already in it. So, like I said, everything on the line as we fly in for our first map, some good old Garrison Hardpoint. As we said, this is London's worst hardpoint in the CDL, 1-7. So they have not won this hardpoint, as Attach puts in 2. They have not won a Garrison hardpoint since stage 1, week 2, and maybe we're seeing why that's the case.
Wow, yeah, we're definitely seeing why, man. Right off the rip, Minnesota were able to just kill every single player on the London side and keep the spawns for that P2 hardpoint. But Paul Lax, he was that player that's going to spawn all the way out, able to pick up both kills in towards bricks. And now with 20 seconds left, you see his focus is try to get over towards that P2. But Minnesota, they're going to have one player here. Unfortunately, he's going to drop, and this is a great start right now for the Ravens, because the way that very first P1 went, it looked like spawns were getting split between both sides, but they neutralized it, and now they're going to be fully set up for that P2.
And a big topic conversation around the Ravens hardpoint was, kind of around their money hills. Like, how good can they start to improve in those kind of major hills when life is on the line? So for them to be able to hold on like that, I think it's fair to say is a solid start. But here comes the onslaught toward the brick side, and of course, it's Zaptius. Been so solid in these last few series for the Ravens stud, but he's sitting at 3-2 so far. We talked about how his performance to start off with this team was not great, but he has picked up the pace.
Yeah, he's really been getting comfortable with this roster, with the likes of Paul X, a guy who he's beaten him with since the beginning of the year. He has to be feeling really confident, and this entire time that we're talking, this has been a full 60, or as I say that, Minnesota were able to break in through bricks, but overall, this is just great time from the Ravens to be able to climb back into this game and take such a substantial lead. And now they're even focused on the rotation towards that P3. Minnesota, they're going to try to flood through dark, but they're going to have their hands full as a couple players from London are already going to be set up.
Yeah, it was pretty much a race, right? One team making their way through artillery, the other through vents. So far for London, it has worked out quite successfully. So this very well could be a P2 to P3 chain. All that relies on how well the RØKKR can start to stack on up, but stacking may be the worst thing to do. Paul does get dropped toward top green. Meanwhile, it's Zed, who's ready to pick up right where he left off. Final player position is known here inside of artillery, and Zed is there to handle it. A solid start for Zed, a solid start for the SMGs and for the Ravens alike, as they're sitting in a great spot, 84 to 29. Minnesota have got to turn things around quick.
Yeah, they just cannot let London flip these spawns out to that P4, because then this game will be blown wide open. With 20 seconds remaining on this P3, you're going to see Minnesota just being a little aggressive, just trying to keep the players from London towards the back of that base. But as I say that, number 7, he's going to get out. Shawnee's going to be rotating over towards top green, and he's going to have that power position. And now Minnesota, they are getting the bad spawns. They're only able to get this 5 seconds remaining on this P3 hard point. And now once again, they're late. They're playing from the back foot, and London are fully set up.
As you said, my friend, sometimes playing from the back foot, you rely on that communication that much more, and it's now a perfect time to go ahead and step aside, listen in with the comms as we go to our Astro listening with the Minnesota RØKKR.
I think.
I'm looking Rose.
Underground? Underground, one shot. He's one underground. Underground still dead.
I'm holding you. I'm holding you.
There's underground. There's underground.
I'm looking underground. One's on me.
They can be
They're gonna
crossing.
slide on
Crossing
me.
you. Dead. One more on you. Weak.
Oh,
Fall.
close.
Is that-
Fuel.
Fuel.
Zed is dead.
Let's get fuel. Let's get fuel.
Overtime.
We're good.
Listen, I'm going caution, guys.
Deep left.
Someone get time?
I'll try and
can't
get
get it.
I'll try and
Going
get
deep
it.
dark.
There's nothing caution. Okay, one caution. One caution.
Low float. Low
Caution,
float
dead.
Hey, one loading. Bertha.
Go float.
Bertha's dead.
Should I get some of this time?
He's no-show area.
Dead. I'm on a fire, guys.
Bertha, Shawnee dead.
I'm blocking.
I'm pushing up right.
Okay.
I'm close to streaks right now.
Okay.
I got one.
My very bomb.
I'm on streaks. I'm trying to run away from
Okay,
this guy.
back up.
Help me.
You needed me?
I'm coming. Someone get
I'm on a
initial.
streak.
I have initial.
I'm looking you.
Actually,
Paul spawn out behind us. Paul spawning out
Zed dead
behind
at
us.
all?
Go. Yeah, I'm going to
Two
vent.
that are
I'm going
spawning
to
out
vent.
behind us. We're missing 2.
I'm playing my streaks here.
There's somebody
One
that
loading.
comes towards time.
I
Shawnee
can't.
loading.
I'm
Shawnee
playing my
loading.
streaks. I can't.
One
Loading
you
dark.
pillar.
You dead. I got it.
In dark.
I'm looking for
Look at
Shawnee.
dark.
Yo, brick on me. Brick on me.
Top float,
I got
dead.
full streaks.
Alright,
Brick. Two brick. One might be going green.
Arch. He's arch. I'm going to green.
Oh, back out.
Other arch.
Back out zap. Okay.
Arch, dead.
Back out zap.
Working out.
I'm trying to hold green. I'm one
No one
shot.
L.
And
One shot.
I'm coming to help
Arch
you.
again,
We can
guys.
L.
On time.
Arch,
Right side
guys.
down.
Arch. Right side mid.
Two
One
dead.
shot. Nice. Zap
I have bricks.
And that one.
I'm going for L.
You can shot.
Because I have deep bricks.
And L jumped out.
Well, it's fair to say that the RØKKR have woken up, and a lot of that has to do with the 11 spree that Priesta happens to be on right now. A 16-6 game. It was Ravens to start, but it has been RØKKR bringing themselves back. Nearly going to be a tie game after our first side of rotations. Now make it a 12 streak. Can he make it 13? Gets the assistance there from Standy, but all is good. And as we said, Stud, it was a P2 to P3 chain. You're thinking, okay, all is going to be lost on the other side for RØKKR, but based off of that spree and based off of the collection, maybe the comms there as well, Minnesota have somehow brought this game back and even taken the lead already.
Yeah, and one thing that I really took away from those comms there was really Standy stepping up in that leader role. Like when those two players were dropping on the side of London, he was telling them that both players are going to be spawning out towards tank. So he's giving that awareness to his teammates. Obviously, Priesta going on a 13 spree is going to help one hell of a bit, but the guy was just going off, and now Minnesota, they are back into this game, getting some time off of this P1 hardpoint. The only thing is they do not have the spawns for that P2, but you got to just think Priesta does have those streaks, so Minnesota can definitely open this game wide open if they're able to get this remaining time and eventually keep the top green control as they try to use that streak. But as I say that, 3 players are going to drop, and London, they neutralize them for now.
I guess it kind of has to make you think a little bit. Like if we don't see Priesta kind of go off the way that he does, how does those first set of rotations really look, given the fact that majority of those kills came when they had to get them? Regardless, 15 seconds down, and here will come cruise missile from the skies as Minnesota will look to try and retake control over here at P2. Good work done early, and that's going to be a nice double kill, silencing any of the players coming in from bricks as Minnesota jump on in, and it's Priesta lighting it up once more. 24-9 on a 3 spree this time around. Drops there, but nonetheless, his presence is felt.
Yeah, I was saying before the beginning of the series that accuracy needs to have a big game, but when your counterpart and your flex duo right there, Priesta, is having the game that he is basically 2 players on the map. Guys going off right now for the team, and even though London were able to break in for those remaining 20 seconds, Minnesota, the fact that they were able to contest that, at least gain some time off of that, and now they have the ability to get fully set up for this P3 hardpoint. They can definitely open this lead wide open. Priesta still has that artillery strike in his back pocket just in case things get scary. But as of right now, Minnesota, they have fought back into this game, and they are using the right play of Priesta to their advantage.
Oh my gosh, Priesta, just like I said, man, he has got his name all over this comeback that Minnesota have been able to pull off up to this point. And what's that? When you got a player going off like that, like 26-11 right now for Priesta, how do you kind of build off that hype when that's not necessarily just one player, but when one guy is kind of taking over for the team, how do you kind of build off of that as a roster?
Oh, well, I'm just thinking about back in the day where Nameless, sometimes he was that player for us when on my roster. Like, you just got to sit there and just let the guy do whatever he wants to do, man, you know? Like, when you're feeling yourself the way that Priest is feeling himself right now, you just got to let the guy be a free bird. Just fly around the map, get the kills that you want because you're winning a majority of your gunfights. Just making sure that you're just keeping the fundamentals in play, and that's what Priest has been showing so far. He's still playing fundamentally correct, not making any risky plays, splitting spawns or anything like that. He's doing what he needs to do for the team, and it's definitely showing.
I like that, man. Just, you know, at times when that Nameless was going off, I'm sure he's probably in the green room right now being like, I'm mind blown. How could he say that against me, Jay? I thought we were friends. Regardless, Priest.
Nah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good
He
player.
definitely was, man. You got to give him some props, you know, from time to time. But as you said, get back quickly in the game. Ravens with bottom floating control, trying to hold off what has been a Priest-up performance. P-Dog has been lining up Garrison, but Shawnee finally is able to have his number. You can just kind of tell the frustrating type of fights that Ravens are looking to hope for. Again, going on this 4 hardpoint streak. They do not want to end it here, and it's been dominant hardpoints really for the Ravens throughout these last few that they've been able to endure. Stud, like we said, no team has got over 150 points. Without a doubt, a much different feeling now. There's 5 seconds left. Accuracy trying to get back on in through the action as top green control still will be in the hands of London. Minnesota spawning out.
Yeah, so London, they just held that beautifully. And now we basically have a tie game going into this P5. But you see where accuracy does spawn. And do London players read this? They're going to have one player slide behind him, and unfortunately, he's not able to get a kill. So London, they're going to eliminate all the players from Minnesota from that back tank. But Standy and Attach able to pick up a couple kills, will be fully set up. And here comes the streak from Priest to just keep the line of the Ravens players back so they can start adding some more time to this clock. That's going to put him at 32 and 16, double positive for the young man. He's really going off right now.
Without a doubt. Going off for the team. Standy as well in such a great position. Are the London going to be able to read him? Paul does get the necessary damage. Without a doubt, the Astros were turned up to 99, so he had to have somewhat of an inclination that a player was there, but 211, 194. London in the back of their base, and this is where the Iceman can start to heat up. We start to cool down, depending on how you look at it. But on the 4 spree, Minnesota can win it here. Just a matter of can the Ravens look to break on through. What does the positioning look like? Making their way through bricks, making their way through top green. A major gunfight going down right now for Paul, but it's Attach who wins it. Shawnee, he needed the assistance on the other side, but Zed thankfully is there for a moment, just rechecks the controller and realizes everything is all good. London can hold on. They are set up quite nicely for P2. See how they can build off of that as time continues to go away. London, they're still in this, but here comes Standy.
Yeah, but right there, Paul X, he wins a big engagement onto Attach and eliminates him out of that top green. And that's what Minnesota was really banking on. With all this time going in favor of the Ravens, Minnesota do not have any positioning to try to get towards that P2. You see number 4 in Priesta. He's going to be able to get out towards that point uncontested, and this is the worst case scenario. Because the way the guy's shooting right now, you don't want to have to challenge him, but 3 players are going to drop. And now London all spawning towards the backside. Paul X is going to have his hands full, but here comes the push out of Minnesota from both top green and inner bricks. They have to try to locate him, but Paul X has stayed alive the entire time, just stalling time for his teammates. And now the game is all tied. London are going to be fully set up. Minnesota have to break in.
Minnesota, they have to do something. Priesta, he drops from the back set of bricks. And if you're Minnesota, you're looking at map positioning. How can they break into this? Something has to happen soon. 7 seconds left, and now it's Zaptius' turn. Attached for the trade. He's at least able to drop 2. Is it enough? Can he break into the hill in time? And right when he runs into the hard point, that is where London was waiting. A back and forth hard point, but the streak remains intact for the Ravens. A much more difficult feat, but they get the job done and somehow, some way, close out our opening hard point, Stud.
It was that ending P5, man. Minnesota, they were basically having them trapped towards that back tank spawn. And then once accuracy drops, a couple players on his teammates, they dropped as well. So London, they were able to get some time off of that P1, but put so much pressure on the spawns.
Pain. Listen, Icon, let's try to spin this in a positive way, okay? Let's get hype. I did predict 3-1, and in my head, I thought the one map that they probably could possibly lose would be the Hardpoint. London has had a hell of a time in Search and Destroy recently. RØKKR's been looking really nice on control. And I do think the Moscow hardpoint is very winnable. But man, it hurts to watch that because that map right there was winnable. You had Priesta absolutely frying, got 2 streaks, and they just weren't able to pull it out. Very close match, lost by less than 20, but what's your takeaway? Was it just too slow of a start there on the first hardpoint?
Yeah, I think it was kind of miraculous in a way that it was even that close. I think the only reason why that match was close to begin with was because Priesta played out of his mind and went on a 12 or 13 streak. If he doesn't do that, it seemed like the tone was set from the very first set of rotations. Minnesota got good spawns, so they had the left side of the map for over towards P2. As P1 was coming to a close, they got flipped out, so they lost spawns for P2. About halfway through that first set of rotations, P2, they were set up for P3. They got flipped out again. And then towards the end of P3, you want to have top green control so that you can basically spawn kill that team that's coming in from P3. And they got flipped out again. It was like the 3 money hills on the first set of rotation. They were set up first, and they got flipped out on each and every single one of those. So the only reason why that map was close to begin with was because Priesta went on a 13 spree. And the critical juncture towards the end of that map was as it rotated from P5 over towards P1, there was a choke point set up. You saw Minnesota getting a ton of time inside of P4. There was a moment where if they just get 1 or 2 kills as P1 was about to pop, then they probably end up winning the map over towards P1, third set of rotations. They lost those gun battles. London was able to get time, basically the remainder of that time inside of P1 to get it to even. They held down those P2 spawns, were able to finish the game inside of P2. So I don't know. I guess there's maybe a reason right now why we don't see Hardpoint Garrison very often out of Minnesota. I just felt like if you could have just changed one of those and just held one of those rotations, that map goes differently. But too many mistakes there, especially at this point in time when we're in a major.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because, lately we have been looking so much better on hardpoint. This kind of puts us in that scary territory now, because if we look at the rest of the map set, we've got Search on Raid, Control on Garrison, Hardpoint on Moscow, and Search and Destroy on Miami. All of those maps are favored for Minnesota, with the exception of Hardpoint Moscow, where Minnesota is 1-4 and London is 5-5. So listen, we're not in must-win territory until if we happen to be 0-2. We're not there yet, but I would argue you must win these next 2 maps to feel super confident that you could win the rest of this series. Not saying we can't pull a Moscow hardpoint. I think a lot of our hardpoint stats are a little, skewed from the beginning of the year, but like we said, London's been looking really good on hardpoint. So, man, we got to pull these next 2. We got to be the 2-3-5 team. We know we are. We can do this, man. I believe we're down 0-1, but it's not over. We're going to kick you guys back over to the CDL stream now. Search and Destroy Raid is coming up next. My second favorite map and mode combo of all time, just behind Hardpoint on Raid. So, yeah, I'm super stoked for this map. Hopefully the boys can even it up here, and we'll catch you guys after the search.
To play this map, even though they're 2-1, they like to take control of pre-5, specifically Attach and Standy. The way that those guys like to play around the middle of the map on their defenses is to be really aggressive towards those middle pillars, and that's one thing that London are going to have to be aware of, so making sure that they're cutting those players off and to make sure that they're winning those engagements to open up the map and not stalling too much time. If you take control of Laundry, you need to plant that bomb for the opposite side. Don't wait for the play to develop. Just let the play go down, plant that bomb, 45 seconds, then make them play for a retake. Because that's what Minnesota, they're so good at in Search and Destroy, is just making the play come to them. They're so aggressive on the map that it catches a couple players off guard, but the way that London have been playing in their hard points, and even yesterday in that Search and Destroy, it just came down to some non-teamwork plays. Specifically, it was Shawnee who challenged Aqua on that street that got bait and switched out to get picked and eventually lose them that map. But so far, Ravens, hopefully they went back, they realized it, and know that they have to play together in order to seek success.
I feel like, as we've, learned more about Raid, Search, and Destroy, of course, this was in the rotation like back in Black Ops 2, but, you learn different things. You just kind of remember exactly how this one played out. I feel like, we watch teams like Toronto Ultra, just the way that the SMGs can kind of dictate the map. I mean, it's not necessarily a Garrison type of situation, but just in general, the way the SMGs can kind of, break open plays, especially toward that B site. Often we talk about the London Royal Ravens. What can Zactius really kind of provide this team in the mode? He has had a great last few series despite London's inabilities to lock up the searches, but here we are into round number 1. London starting on the attacking side. Current 2-2 split for them. A was wide open for a moment, but as we know, Accuracy being that island player is there now for the rotation. Hanging out toward that back basketball court, just trying to get some visuals. What are you seeing so far from Ravenside?
So right now, Ravens, they know exactly the setup. Like I said, that Minnesota is going to play. Attach and Stanley are going to take control of P5, but fortunately, they give Attach that first blood. So now they find themselves in a 3v4 situation, but some great shots right there out of Zaptius to tie it up at 3 apiece. And with that kill, do they pick up on Accuracy being an island player? Yes, they do. So now it turns into a 3v1. Paul X on the opposite side of the map, able to take down Attach. So now it's a 3v1 situation for Standy. Just some great individual play right there from the Ravens, winning a majority of their island player gunfights. But Standy in the 1v3, 35 seconds remaining. Bomb is going to be planted 4-bedroom. This is going to be a tough task to get done.
30 seconds left. London now is always going to belong to them, especially once the bomb got planted. But as you said, man, like I know the big conversation around the Ravens has been teamwork, you know, in search and destroys, as you called it. Sometimes that's been off. That was off, obviously, in their series yesterday. But you're in this moment, like they just kind of separate players correctly. They go for the 2-2 split, and you know, whenever Attach was hanging out kind of toward middle, you can just see he was totally caught off guard by the fact that Paul kind of pushed through the site despite all of the attention being made toward that A bomb site. Good awareness from London early, as it was Zaptius who did put in the hat trick to start off the opening round. Nice 3-0 for him. The long shot as well, setting themselves up quite nicely. But now on the Minnesota side, again, we know this team, how dominant they were to start the season off in search and destroy. It's been in control as of late, but what can they do now here at the major as the opening trade is in? It's Minnesota with current control over a B as they look to run through the site, get control over Laundry.
Yeah, so right now, keeping control of Laundry is the best case scenario, and they're able to get that information onto Shawnee towards back jungle. So as soon as that happens, they know that they're playing safe towards the backside. They're just trying to hold the push through, but here comes the players from the Ravens to push through in the middle of the map, and they're able to take down Preset as soon as that bomb goes down. And Zed able to get away with his life. So now it's a 3v2 situation. They know that Shawnee is towards back jungle, but look at what London are doing. This is where the teamwork comes out on top. They're going to 3-man push out back Laundry, and this is completely going to catch the Minnesota players off guard. Standy, he's going to be working up the map, able to take down one, turns it into a 2v2 situation.
Trade is in. Johnny versus Accuracy. 15 seconds left. Shawnee's got to make the play, but Accuracy, so familiar with situations such as this one, playing the timeout right, wins the fight. And even if Shawnee would have got the kill, Accuracy just plays the timing correctly. Really toward the stretch, you called it well, Stud. Like I said, London, they kind of group up, but Standy, that particular kill right there, just causes London to spread.
Yeah, so right there, when he picks up that first kill, obviously it turns into a 2v2. But the fact that he was able to get the second before going down was the biggest play of the game. And you put the time at like 15 seconds for Shawnee to try to work with by killing Accuracy, and it just doesn't work out. Iceman comes out with another clutch to tie it up all at 1-1.
I want to ask you too, like, you know, we talked about the RØKKR and just the players that you have on this team. It is kind of odd to think about, like, this team so far throughout stage 3. They sit at 2-4 in those search and destroys. I mean, I know with the loss of MiDNiTE, who is an amazing search and destroy player, like, you know, what do you think has been the problem for Minnesota recently in these S&Ds? Like, what has caused them to not be able to have that along with the control, for example, from what you've witnessed?
I just feel like their setups have been the same since the beginning of the season. Yeah. Like, Attach and Standy have always been pushing towards the middle of the map. Even before that, it was Attach and MiDNiTE. And it's just, they just haven't changed anything up. Accuracy is still that island player who plays at the bomb site by himself. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In this round so far, it's working out. But just teams are just reading them, man. It's just really hard to develop new strategies sometimes in Minnesota. They're just going with what works for them so far. But right now, you find Accuracy in a 1v2 situation. I'm pretty sure Minnesota were able to take down the first 2 kills in this round. But now, Iceman in another 1v2. He's going to be relocating towards that top art room. The bomb is going to get planted, but he spots the foot of Zaptius. Fortunately, not able to clean up the kill. And now with 40 seconds remaining, Paul X gets some shots down. Zaptius knows all he has to do is just try to stay alive and just stall some clock.
And that's going to hurt, right, if you're Accuracy in this situation. How big that kill would have been, how much the round could have turned around had he found it. But Another moment to check, and like I said, Paul and Zat, they're pretty well acquainted with each other. They know how to play search and destroy quite nicely. And Accuracy realizes he has to go for the challenge, falling right into the trap that London have laid for him. And really, if you're Accuracy, you just got to go for it at that point. But as you said, I think it's an interesting conversation. Like, you know, the setup side of things for Minnesota kind of remaining standard. And I mean, based off the way that like we see Zed playing things, and just the way that the London has played this raid search and destroy so far, as you said, you kind of can see that they appear to know kind of exactly the way that Minnesota, for the most part, is going to be in certain positions. And so far, they have looked somewhat solid. Again, you know, 2-1 start, but like I said, in their offenses, they have been stellar.
Yes, they have. But now they're going into a defensive round. And Minnesota, what they showed in first round was that aggression towards that B site. Once again, you're going to have Zap and Zed taking control of mid-map, but this time they're switching it up. They're going straight through Zig, and no player from Minnesota is going to have any info of two players pushing the flank immediately. So here comes number 6 from that top window. Zapties is in such a great position. But he's just going to take his time. He knows that the bomb is going to be down, so they're settling for a 4v4 retake. But Shawnee, he's just holding their side. A couple shots are going to come in from Paul X. Not able to close down the kill, but with everyone's position right now on the Ravens, you know exactly the setup of Minnesota. They have to be pushed out towards Laundry, so it's all about just timing this correctly. 25 seconds left. London have to go.
Ronnie tries to make the play. Time ticking away. Look at Zed. He's on the defuse. He has the cover fire right now. Does Priest go for the recheck? They're looking every which way they can. London, have they done this? Can he get the defuse? And he does!
Oh, my.
What a play from the Ravens. The cover fire was there. Minnesota, they did not see him on the defuse. As you can see, Attach's perspective, just with that rock being where it was, he could not see the defuse coming in. What a play. The teamwork continues to be there for London.
Man, I love that out of Zed, because he's that player that's always going to go in and go for that ninja defuse. The fact that he has the cojones to really go out there just to stick to that defuse with about 20 seconds left, that was insane. Good play right there out of Zed, and it completely caught Minnesota off guard. And now you find themselves into another offensive round where London have really been dominating. One player swimming through the water. Stanley's not going to be able to spot him. But also, they don't get any information that Stanley's going to be here, so he should be able to pick up this kill on Zed. And now it turns into a 3v4 situation. Stanley making plays, able to pick up 2 on the round, but Zaptius able to take down Accuracy. But now in a 3v2 situation, you know the positioning of Stanley. You know that Paul X is trying to work him. But can he find this kill?
Stanley again. We 3 kills for him. Can he find the ace? Zap puts in some good damage toward the stretch inside of Tiki, but well, that one just comes down to Stanley just giving some call-outs. Like, hey, I got one. Okay, I got him. All right, got someone top mansion. Yeah, he's dead too. No worries, no problems. Stanley, just the plays that he can make around the map. No question. Like I said, when we talk about the post game for Shawnee, it's just like, if we can shut down Stanley, we're just going to be in such a great spot. So far, the search destroyed. Despite having the lead for the Ravens, it is Stanley leading the way without a doubt. 9-3 on the 4 spree, considering the nice round we just saw him have.
Yeah, and they need his play, because right now you have Priest, who's currently sitting at 0-4, and this is going to be an all-out mid-push from Minnesota. And this is going to catch the London players completely off guard, but 2 players are going to drop on both sides. And now it turns into a 2v2 situation. And then they know the positioning from Minnesota. They're going to work towards this B bomb plant. But number 6, keep in mind, Zaptius is going to be already rotated towards back Laundry. They're able to take down 1. Shawnee's able to spot the second, and the pinch comes in. And just another great round right there out of the Ravens, winning their very first defensive round right there. You got to be feeling really good for the Ravens, because that was a 4v2 and then turned it into a 2v2, just a non-stop bloodbath in the middle of the round. But they come out on top.
They do, man. Like I said, when you get Shawnee in those positions, like he just is a laser beam with that Krig. It's just a matter of him getting in the right position or not. And obviously, there's only 1 kill, but he gets the kill, gets the information on Attach, stays alive. Just the great plays coming through from the construction man, the conductor. Give him all the nicknames you'd like. But really, so far, it's been the young guys taking over in this entire game. Not even just for the Ravens, but this entire match. We got Stanley at 10-4, Paul at 6-4, Zap 9-3. Again, coming into the major, had like around a 0.6, 0.7 KD in S&D. Just a matter of time before he started to get more well acquainted with this roster. But Attach and Accuracy, a nice combination to start. The team shots are in towards Zig. Zig caused London to retreat.
So with accuracy, putting some shots down from Kitchen, you're going to see number 7 just with the bomb. Unfortunately, he's going to have to rat back as 2 of his teammates drop. But now it turns into a 4v2 situation. Minnesota decided to change the setup up a little bit, and so far it has worked out. But now with 50 seconds left on the clock, Shawnee does have the bomb. Zaptius, he's going to be sitting towards mid-map, just trying to find any stragglers. Standy's in such a great position to put some early shots down to Shawnee. The nade is going to come in. He's going to be hurt. Standy's going to commit to the gunfight. But it's just ringing around the rosy right now. But Standy eventually is going to get the kill.
You got to commit Shawnee in that position, right? He's weak. He's got to Krig up close. Dances as long as he can. But as we said, Minnesota do escape with it. And I guess what kind of the mantra so far for London, especially in these search and destroys, has kind of been that defense. And once, and I feel like for both these teams, like London currently ranked 12th in defensive rounds, winning just over 47%. On the other side for Minnesota, number 1 in defensive rounds right now, winning nearly 61% of those. On a map like Raid, you will absolutely be tested on the defensive side. For Ravens so far, it has been their offenses, but what can they do now? A huge round for both teams. As it will be RØKKR yet again attacking toward the B side. Is it going to be all-out aggression to start? If you're standing, that's what you like, but Zaptius has got his number. The early first blood out of the Ravens as the fights only look to continue to ensue, as there's the nade over the top from Priesta, catching Zed out as well. A quick 2 versus 2. Shawnee drops, all down to Paul.
Now Paul in a 1v2 situation. First of all, I love the adjustment right there out of the Raves. Just completely switch up the strategy and try to blind counter on towards that B site. But it doesn't really work out for them. So now in the 1v2 Paul with 45 seconds on the clock. Both players from Minnesota are going to wrap back towards Art. I feel like Paul was able to at least spot one. But accuracy is going to walk right into the pre-aim, and now it turns into a 1v1 situation. And Paul, he's gained a lot of information here. He knows exactly where attach needs to be. Just going to take his time, wrap around the map, able to spot him, and Paul X in the 1v2 situation, able to take his time, maneuver the map, and just catch both players off guard in the 1v2 situation now to give his team the advantage of 5-3, 1 round away from closing this one out.
What a round there out of Paul X. In need of some game fuel after that. Just a quick little swig. Just the clutch plays out of the rookie to put it away. And how great has he been in these clutch situations so far throughout his shorter, pro season? Gets brought into this team, coming into stage 2, and he has just made such a major impact, sitting at 8-5, 11-5 for Zaptius. As we said, it's the Western duo lighting it up to start. Can this be the round where things begin to close? Zaptius and Standy continuing to be involved in those early engagements. Paul does get dropped, quickly halted, so all he can do is just watch as his teammates look to try and put in the final round of the game. Making its way over toward A, and it's the Iceman. It's accuracy. The only player here, and as soon as that plant comes in, he's instantly going to get the information. But how does the challenge look? Shawnee, but has to be so careful of his position. Giving the callouts to Attach and Priesta. Zaptius, meanwhile, sits through mid-map. 30 seconds left.
And Zed is able to spot him. Zaptius able to pick up the other. So now it's all up to Attach in the 1v2 situation. The challenge is going to be in. And the Ravens are able to win the search and destroy. This is a game that they have been struggling with recently. But they use their teamwork. They use their random pushes. And an insane ninja defuse out of Zed to close out this map number 2. And now they're up 2-0 in this series.
I mean, Stud, I don't know about you, I was so impressed with the Ravens throughout that search to destroy. Like we said, there was just so many different moments. Like, in their series yesterday versus Paris, just at times, they just looked off in different rounds. The coordination just was not there, but you can see the smiles on the team's face talking about search and destroy. It has been their weakness, but they have turned things around, as it was a nice 13-6 out of Zap. Paul, without a doubt, had his number in this one, and really, if you're Shawnee and Zed, you're like, cool. We're just gonna let the young guns kind of go to work, take the job from here, and great performance really from Standy throughout, but just did not have that teammate support, man. The Ravens, they continue to impress.
They're just putting on a clinic, man. Ever since the start of this major so far, these guys are looking like a completely different team from stage 3. They're clutching up in those hard points. They're clutching up now in their search and destroys. And it's only getting more scary because now Minnesota, they find themselves down 2-0, but they're going into their trusty game mode, into that control. And this time, London, they do not have checkmate. So we're going to have a Garrison control, but that's going to be one of those bangers, and they have the potential to get 3-0. But Minnesota, they need to come alive here and stop giving the same exact setup so far in their search and destroys.
I like it, man. I like it. Well, let's go and take a look at our U.S. Army tactical play. This in round 8, a big one for the Ravens, and what's that? This is the Paul clutch, the 1v2.
Yeah. So I'd love the play right here out of the Ravens to just change the pacing, to be aggressive towards that B site. Unfortunately, 2 players drop, but they get a trade, and now it's a 1v2 situation. But you see the positioning out of Paul X. He decides to take his sweet time and go all the way through Kitchen to wrap back towards the middle of the map, able to spot both players as they're wrapping back towards Art. And this is the biggest thing. Once he's able to watch these guys turn to this left, once he kills accuracy, he knows exactly how attach is going to be set up. He's taking his sweet time, just going through the middle of the map. Eventually, he gets towards Zig, just takes his time, and eventually that kill is going to come to him. And with 30 seconds left, there's a lot of clock that you need to work with. And he knows, with accuracy in the position that he was, attach has to be somewhere near him, because in your 2v1 situation, you're always playing for the trade, but he wraps completely around again, just using that clock to his advantage, able to catch him off guard, and eventually get the defuse to put his team up 5-3 on the round.
Oh man, from one search destroyed mastermind to another. A lovely breakdown as always. Does Paul punch it in the digits there for London, but is it going to be a 3-0 as Control Garrison will decide what...
Icon, this is not good. Let's shoot straight. We are in the lower bracket. We can't lose, and we're down 0-2 to the tied for last team in the league. This has not been looking good. We said it at the beginning. Yes, London is the last ranked team, but they have been improving lately. They're looking good. Their hardpoint is looking good. Kind of threw that one away. The search looked abysmal. Feels like we haven't found our footing in search in almost 2 months. Must win now. Got a reverse sweep. Do you think we could do it? I mean, we've seen Control kind of flip things the other way sometimes, but wow, what's your take so far?
Yeah, that S&D on raid obviously there's not much there that went the way that you wanted it to go. Just a couple things. I thought that Minnesota got a little bit complacent with their defensive setups. Like normally most of the time what you saw there is accuracy over towards Tiki. You saw Standy and attach mid-map, just trying to basically work trades or cut down any aggression middle of the map. And you saw Priesta over towards top laundry on defense. And it was basically that set up every defense except for maybe 1 or 2. And the second thing is that sometimes people just make clutch plays, like that tactical round that you saw right there out of Paul X. He just clutched up. He was able to get that kill on accuracy as he shoulder peeked over towards Zig, made the right play going out of ring to finish that last kill and get the defuse. So sometimes people just clutch up, and you can talk all day about how London is the 12th ranked S&D team in the CDL, but a lot of those stats come from a time when Paul X wasn't on the squad and Zapdius wasn't on the squad. So it's 1,000% a different team than what we're used to seeing throughout the first 2.5 stages, somewhere in there. Now, if you're Minnesota, we've seen it done multiple times throughout this season. You have to go into map 3. You have to change your mindset. You have to start thinking towards a reverse sweep. And this control on Garrison, even though their record says 3-2, let's not forget that this was also the control map that Minnesota played against the Toronto Ultra, and they went up 2-0. They lost their offense, and then they just kind of choked away back-to-back defenses there to win that map. So even though they lost that control on Garrison to Toronto, they were in perfect form, and it all just came down to, on that matchup, it came down to those first 2 rounds. Standy and Attach were just unbelievable mid-map. That was the match that Standy started like 17-4 or something crazy like that before he ended up cooling off. So we'll see what happens going into this one, but no doubt about it, you have to hit the reset button. You have to change your mindset, gain momentum in the control on Garrison, and then try to apply that momentum as you go into Hardpoint on Moscow and S&D on Miami.
Whew! Man, great takes. I'm pissed. Come on, boys. Fire it up. We can do this, man. Let's use this control Garrison and teeter-totter this thing back our way. I believe that the guys can do it. It's not going to be easy now, though. It's good. It's time to see, like, how do they handle this pressure? You're in lower bracket. It's round 2. Like, it's the first time you've played in the major. You're playing London, and the back's super against the wall right here, and it's not feeling good. It can't feel good. You know, however, though, I mean, I guess I would be really curious to. I wasn't able to take down the map vetoes or, you know, who kind of chose what at the beginning. In my fantasy world that I just made up in my head, those 2 maps were Ravens picks, and we're about to take off. It's about to be sick. I hope anyway. Knock on wood, man. Control Garrison's a tough place to do it. We are 3-2 on the map. We've had maps, I think it was versus Paris, where we 3-0'd them and looked super dominant. And then, yeah, you're right. Come out 2-0 versus Toronto, looking like world beaters. And then it just crumbles. You know, you see a little bit of momentum shift in a control round, and suddenly, after dominating for the first 2 minutes, you lose the game in 40 seconds, right? That's just what can happen in control. So we need that consistent slayability to just let's play the objective, man. Get the slays, get the plays. Priesta showed out in map 1. Didn't have the best map 2, but I would argue nobody but Standy had a good map 2 really there for RØKKR. So, man, it's tough. This is not where you want to be on the first match of a major, but hey, I do believe that the guys have the resolve to bring this thing back. Let's take my energy, RØKKR. Come on, you can do this. You can do this. Let's win this Control Garrison. We're going to kick you guys back over to the CDL stream, and we'll be back to hopefully bridge between map 3 and 4. Knock on wood. Oh my gosh. Okay, see you guys soon.
The search and destroy is definitely not there. If they keep showing the same exact setup, all teams got to do is just search it up on YouTube and eventually just get all the VOD watch, and it's going to be easy to beat these guys in search and destroy. Obviously, you can't control the clutches, you can't control the ninja diffuses, but the backbone for these guys is that control game mode. Throughout stage 3, this was their best game mode, so they need to be able to bounce back now with their backs against the wall, win or go home situation. I know it's exactly what we were not expecting from Minnesota, because we considered them one of those top 6 teams, but right now the Ravens, they are just really riding that high horse, and they're just on point. So I'm looking forward to this map between both of these rosters, but specifically I'm looking at the battle between Standy and Zaptius, because Standy, we know what kind of player he can be and how he can take over maps. Obviously, Priesta tried to do it on map number 1. It didn't really work out, but they need Standy on a map like this, especially on control, to just maneuver around the map, make sure he's hitting the routes, and staying alive, picking up those kills for his teammates.
Yeah, man. You know it well. 1.35 for Standy in Garrison control. He's been putting up 1.91s in their victories. And it can be a threat. Last time we did see the Garrison, which was in the respawn, as Paul, in fact, takes him down. It was P-Dog, a.k.a. Priesta, who went off for the team. Unfortunately for him, that was not enough. The longest streak that we've seen in the CDL could not harness themselves a victory. And I imagine most of the streaks that we probably see are with teams getting the dubs. That just kind of, you know, puts it in perspective a little bit. Standy in the middle of the flank, fills Zed with quite a bit of lead. Meanwhile, Priesta drops. That's 3 straight. Make it 4 off the map now for the Ravens. And quickly from B to A, the quick transfer, 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the clock. Quite a bit of time right now as the pinch looks to get settled in from Bricks.
Yeah, with 2 minutes and 5 seconds, they have a 4 live advantage. London have a lot of time to just maneuver around the map, flank around, and probably set up some spawn traps. The kills are just going back and forth. Zed eventually is going to take down the second. There's only one more player from Minnesota on this point. It's all up to Attach to just try to stay alive and just stall time for his teammates to get to him. But unfortunately, the pinch is going to come in, and now London, they have control.
Do indeed, Paul. Locking things up as that 74U has just been on fire to start this one off. 1 tick nearly through. As Minnesota now look to break on in. You have one player looking to try to make a play toward the back, so he gets shut down. Both the SMGs fall, and that will be a clearance there for RØKKR, a much needed one. But at the very least, if you are London, you did get a tick. But we talked about on Garrison how difficult it can be just to get to the point in the first place. A lot of time to work with, up by 2 lives. As London looks to try to reiterate their forces, change up the strats, and refocus. Accuracy in the middle of a big play, another trade.
So right now, Minnesota, they're just holding the line. They're forcing the Ravens players to make a decision on what they want to do. And it's looking like they're going to try to go to middle bricks. It's obviously flooding out of top green. It's not the right play to do. unless you have a set of streaks, but kills are just going back and forth. We have a tied live advantage at 12 apiece. The pressure is going to come in from top green. That's going to be 2 players from London trying to fly out, but Minnesota, they have just too many bodies on this point to where they're able to win the trade engagements. Right now, the Ravens, 48 seconds left. They're starting to go into panic mode. A lot of single challenges coming in right now. It's not really working out for them. You see the way that Minnesota are playing this. Just hold their middle map, making sure that you know that the Ravens players are going to flood towards top green. And Mr. Iceman able to pick up 2. Zaptius with the trade. That's going to slow down the push from the Ravens with 30 seconds left.
Given the position, that may be the kill that they need. Thatch holding valiantly on the point again. Once more put in a position where he has to go big, holds off for as long as possible. That time will continue to hold on. Paul, can he find the second? He does! A major double from Paul X as they look to stack into the point. Can anybody get here in time? Jumping from one part to the next off of the top rope. It is London. They get the right timing. It just was getting everybody down in sequence, and from there, the story is history. London grab the opening offense.
I wish you guys could see my face right now because the way that London are playing, man, just looking at the teamwork out of these guys, like they're never out of it. With 30 seconds left, they know that they have a low live advantage, but they take their time. They still are executing the right play. They had one player go towards top green, and the rest of his teammates go towards bricks. They win a majority of those gunfights that forces all of Minnesota to spawn out towards back tank, and eventually they capture the point. Paul X ending on a 4 spree, working towards some streaks. I'll be excited to see if he pulls out the AR right now and just to slow down his gameplay a little bit because those streaks can really change this game, but that one's got to hurt if you're Minnesota. You basically had a full setup, the clock was ticking down, and you just threw it all away.
I mean, given the fact that, like I said, Minnesota, they lose the opening offense, they're down 0-2. What needs to be said in the comms right now, Stud, for RØKKR?
Man, what are we doing? Like, we are just choking round after round, map after map. We need to flip this around, man. And we just need to get active. This is not who we are. This isn't the identity that we have portrayed for ourselves. And right now, we're just making minimal mistakes. Let's clean those up, and we're going to get right back into this one. That's what I would be saying if I was sitting right next to those 4 guys.
Yeah, you know, the man, what are we doing? I feel like you say that quite often to me when we play League Play together. Landon, what are you doing? Why are you flipping spawns on Checkmate P1? What's going on here? But as you said, man, Minnesota, they've got to get something going. And, you know, we talk constantly about different players. Obviously, Paul X on the streak is what we see his perspective. But kind of now, given this moment, you got players like Accuracy. You got some vets on this team, guys who can kind of guide the ship as Paul does now continue that spree to 7. Maybe those comms could be necessary now more than ever. Having to guide the troops, but the troops just only continue to fall by the wayside. Shawnee nearly turns. So those streaks could definitely come in handy. Either to lock up this round or obviously the next offense, depending on the way that you look at it. But Standy with the big 1v1, that may guarantee the B point to go their way. Meanwhile, Priesta looks for the 1v2 engagement. Standy's there for the assistance. So Minnesota continuing to really just be problematic on both sides of the map, but London are able to rebound for the moment. B point, a major 1v1 victory. I believe that was for player 8. So Zed wins a major fight, and that will halt the push there. With 35 seconds left, they got to do something, Stud.
Yeah, they do. And just keep in mind that Paul X does have those streaks if it decides to get a little freaky in the middle of this round with 30 seconds left. But as of right now, they weren't able to get that big point. Zed taking that 1v1 gunfight to stall that time and to keep the clock going. Now with 20 seconds left, London is so far pushed up. Minnesota have to win a majority of these gunfights to try to get out to that B point and extend this time. But 2 players are going to drop. 1 player is going to be towards top floating. Accuracy is going to be able to win that engagement. But now Accuracy is the only player left from Minnesota to get on with the positioning. And just like that, London, they bounce back. They have the map control, and London are going to walk away with the defensive hold. So far, this has been such a great series from the Ravens.
It has, and on the other end for RØKKR, like, you know, them playing throughout that offense, I mean, do you think that they were just too spread? Like we talked about, they were just 1 tick away. A major 1v1 fight is what the RØKKR rely on to kind of keep that point up. Like, you think they played too spread in that moment? Just stack the point in a situation like that?
I think in that situation, RØKKR thought in their mind, hey, we got the B point. There's no way London is going to be pushing towards us. We already got 2 ticks on the way to the 3rd.
Yeah.
So we're just going to put all of our focus onto that 8 point. But London didn't give up, especially Zed. He wins. He goes towards that point. He wins the engagement, even though he's sitting at 6-11. That was the biggest kill of the round because the clock is going to continue to go on, and eventually they were able to close it out in the final 20 seconds. But London, they're just taking risks, man, and it's working out for them. Because right there, if Zed does not get that kill, and they have the potential to just flood out towards that 8-point, Minnesota have a chance to win that, but now they find themselves down 2-0.
I mean, high risk, high reward, and the reward at the end of the day is a sweet, sweet victory. And the Ravens get it done here. Like we said, you could not be in a more tilting, really type of situation if you're Minnesota. Down 0-2 in the series, down 0-2 in the control. It has to start here, or if not, they are eliminated. A major round for the RØKKR. And how do they look to try and reply? Match really somewhat caught off guard, is able to walk away with the gunfight. So in the end, Minnesota will find the favorable trades, and now you're looking at London kind of given their circumstance. 35 seconds, they just really haven't had the ability to spread their wings like they do on the offensive sides. They're not contesting over at B and A at the same time. They really haven't gotten anything going as of yet. Zed continues to fly off the rails. That may be the opening that the Ravens need. Attach the sole player left alive, and they say, you know what? No big deal. They win the fight. They instantly push toward B. And as we said, man, on their offenses, they just like to try to cause problems throughout the map. 16 seconds on the clock. How can the Ravens look to do this?
Oh, no.
But an unfortunate team kill. Meanwhile, Priest is able to find one. Zed wins the 1 versus 1. Somehow, Ravens have got out of this situation, still capturing this point at A. It's now opportunity to retake potential here for Minnesota.
Man, but a lot of these kills are going in favor of the Ravens. They already have 2 ticks on towards that 8-point. Shawnee's going to be able to take down another 2. So here comes the streak out of Paul X. This is what I was expecting not to happen. It looked like they were just going to crumble and just go into their defensive round, keeping those streaks. But they're able to take that 8-point. They have a 2-live advantage. 2 kills make it 3 going in favor of the Ravens. And right there, the second tick is already in. The streak is going to be in. Ravens should be able to close it out.
It looks to be that way. Here come the streaks, and it's all about a celebration. Fireworks here on Garrison as the Ravens will walk away with the 3-0 sweep. And what a play toward the stretch. All about that coordination stud. The Ravens, they continue to surprise us. The Cinderella story so far of the Stage 3 Major lives on.
And they just got those 3 kills in chain. It was like 20 seconds left on the clock. And they get 3 down. So that is the opening. Right there, you see the Ravens are like, no, we're not going to go towards the B point. We know that that one's the easier one to capture. We're going to take our talents over to that A point. And that's exactly what they do, man. Zed going big because there was a lot of trades that went on there. But Zed got a big 2-piece that really neutralized the players from Minnesota. They were coming off spawn, and now it gave a lot of time for his teammate in Shawnee to eventually jump up towards top green and pick up those last 2 kills. And they just captured that 8-point with ease. They forced Minnesota to just spawn all the way out towards the back of P5. And at that point, Paul X knows, we invest these streaks, the game's basically over. Just continuously just picking up kills, adding that extra time by capping that 8-point. London...
IKON, I have no idea what to say. I'm fucking heartbroken. Sorry for cursing. I'm upset. That was so difficult to watch. Just at no point in any of the maps, almost, aside from when Priest went on his 13 streak, did it feel like we had any control, just ability to take over. Just, yeah, London came to play, man. Like, London is no longer the last place team in the league with that win. They are now 11th. Wow. What's like your main takeaway from that? Is RØKKR just super struggling? Is London just getting super hot? That's now their 3rd match win in a row. To help talk me off the ledge, man. I'm fucking freaking out. I'm sorry for cursing. I'm upset. Damn it.
Yeah, I mean, even though London does look better, that's a match that you have to win. It would be interesting to see kind of what happened with vetoes there also, just because just the first few maps here, there wasn't really a map that Minnesota was really favored on, especially that map 1 on Garrison. But I mean, you have to give London credit. The matches before this, they had a 3-1 victory over Paris, 3-1 victory over Seattle. They ended up losing to Atlanta in round 10 on map 5. And before that, they got a victory over the New York Subliners. So you look at their recent performances, I mean, they are 1,000%. I know that we mentioned it in the intro. They're not the same squad that they were earlier, but just diving a little deeper, like they're beating good teams like the New York Subliners, and they're really close to beating teams like the Atlanta FaZe. So looking at this one overall, I think it was a match where if you're Minnesota, you had to come into this match and you had to be playing well. Like, I feel like at some point in times there can be matches throughout the length of a CDL season where if you're playing okay, it's still probably good enough to beat some squads. I feel like London's in a spot now where like you have to be playing well to beat them. And outside of really what Priesta did on that map 1 to keep that map 1 close, the rotations in that map 1 basically all went the way of London. You look at the S&D on raid, they were for sure the aggressor. On defense, you saw Minnesota doing a lot of basically the same thing round after round. And then on that control, it seems like, it can be a stalemate for 95% of a round. And then Paul X goes on that first offense, gets a 2-piece, gets a kill from behind over on the top side of the map at that A point. They take control of the A point with like 15, 20 seconds left. They end up winning that offense, and it just propels them to a round or a map victory, which ends up being a match victory. So I don't know. I just feel like when it's time for a major, you have to be playing your best. You can't come in playing okay and making silly mistakes. And you kind of saw today what can happen if you do come in that way.
Yeah, that was super tough to watch. I mean, the typical came out flat excuse, like it's major time, baby. We can't come out flat. This is where you absolutely need to perform. I'm not sure what's going on there with the team. If it's just that I mean, I say it all the time. I said it at the beginning. I'm so sorry. All the teams in the CDL are really freaking good. But I know that RØKKR is better than what they just showed us. And that's the part that's, the most, I think, disappointing for us and the fans. Do I think it's the world is burning, throw the whole team in the dumpster? Absolutely not, okay? We're a well-oiled organization. We have very competent coaching and management. The players are all really good. I do think we're still in the top. We still, if we were to end the season today, we would still go to playoffs and champs, right? But with that being said, I do think this team is better than definitely what they just showed us, and I'm hoping that we can unlock that in the next stage, because this was not our stage whatsoever. So this is a tough L to take. It's tough for the players. I know they all grind their asses off. I definitely don't think it's anything to do with work ethic or anything like that. I know they all put their hearts and souls into this, and so I can't imagine they're like, there's no way that I'm the most mad here. I can't imagine how the players are feeling. So heart goes out to them. But yeah, I know this team is better than what they just showed, and I hope that we can show that in the next stage. What do we say now, Icon? Usually I like to end the stream with a positive spin, hey, it'll be all right, next stage, best stage, hopefully. Do you frick?
Yeah, I think things probably get a little tight here now when you're looking at the standings, because Florida is only 30 points behind and they're currently still in winner's bracket. So even if they don't win another match, they're going to get points just based off of their overall placings, which could very easily end up tying them with where Minnesota's at for a tie for 8th. I think you got to look ahead to maybe get a little bit of help from Optic Chicago, who also plays today, because LAG is in that 9th spot. So if LAG ends up beating Optic, that's another 10 points for them, which only puts them 30 points behind Minnesota. And you couple that with wherever they're going to end up in a placing. I mean, I think if you go back a couple weeks ago, Minnesota was in a much more comfortable spot with like a 40, 50, 60 point CDL point lead based off of where that 9th team was at. And now all of a sudden, Minnesota, Florida, LAG are kind of all right in that same bubble based off of how this major might end up playing out.
It's about to get real hot and heavy going into stage 4. I just want to read a tweet here from Reppin, aka Jake. The team's all tweeting right now that this is unacceptable. Reppin says, good games, London. RØKKR's eliminated from the major. Unacceptable showing from us and well played by London, which, to be fair, I do think London is looking really good. Thank you for the continued support. We'll be back better for stage 4, and I think they need to be. It's getting real hot and heavy in the standings, and I don't doubt this organization's management and the roster's ability to clutch the frick up, okay? Middle of the season woes here, guys. But hey, I do believe, I know everyone's super passionate in the chat. I really appreciate you guys coming out today. We will be back. Unfortunately, not this weekend, but we will be back for stage 4. And also, make sure to subscribe, guys. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do a weekly podcast live here, the Rotation, IKON, myself, and Kingdom Soldier. We can go, man, they're interviewing Paul Hex. I want them to be interviewing Standy or something. What the heck? Sorry. But yeah, I think, hey, man, we'll be back with the podcast. We'll chop it up, and the co-streams next stage will be back as well. So make sure to subscribe, all that. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm going to go. I just got my 2nd vaccine shot today, so I'm going to go lay down and watch an entire weekend of CDL matches. Unfortunately, no RØKKR, but hey, I'm still excited to watch the rest of the weekend. It's going to be crazy. The lower bracket's nuts. The upper bracket's crazy. It's actually, I'm really, really excited for how this major is going to play out. Pain. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate the passion in the chat. Much love, guys. We'll catch you guys next time. Thank you, IKON, for joining me.
As always,
and we'll
for
see
sure.
you guys later.